What's going on, everyone? Kelly Cavallera here, one half of 7 Era Media, and welcome to today's edition of the Honky Tonk Highway, the Friday edition, episode 35. Thank you guys for tuning in so far. Hope you're enjoying all the shows. If you haven't yet, please like, follow, subscribe, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We are currently live on both Facebook and YouTube. That way everybody can watch where they enjoy. Today's show is going to be a little different, just like last week's Thursday episode. I have not one, not two, but three guests on with me today, and it's going to be a topic. Just for everyone knows we're aware, just like last week, a little disclaimer, this is our opinion. This is the opinion of this panel. It's not reflective on anybody else but the four of us that are going to be talking. And we will be taking your questions, of course. So, without further ado, my guests today, ladies and gentlemen, JP Potter, Trevor Thornton, and Tim Perez. Thank you guys. What's going on?
How's it going?
Well, I'm here. It's Friday.
What's happening?
Chilling, living the dream.
That's right.
I'm trying to figure out what you spilled all over that shirt still.
It's a lot better looking than what's over that hat.
Oh, I don't know about all that, bud.
All right, so since Trevor... Listen here, just because you don't know sports, JP, you sit in the corner and behave.
Oh, man.
All right, JP and Trevor obviously repeats. JP was on last week's show again as well with me and Darren and Fred. Trevor was the very first episode I have. So as we get started, Tim, you're the new one here on the show. Why don't you just give everyone a quick little background on your history in the dance world so they know.
Okay, well, I'm Tim Perez. I have been dancing. I started off dancing UCWDC back in 1992. Las Vegas Dance Finale was my very, very first event that I started with, dancing junior teen. I started dancing line dancing couples way back then. I was on a junior dance team called Young Country way back then, and that's how I got started in this whole dancing world, and just kind of worked my way up through the UCWDC as a kid. After I turned 18, I kind of took a break, came back. I competed in line dance in the UC as well as couples, and I made it all the way to masters. And now I'm a certified judge in the UCWDC as well as the treasurer of the UCWDC and event director of the South Bay Dance Fling Labor Day weekend.
Awesome. What he left out, he's also the dance instructor at Gillies in Las Vegas.
Yes.
So lots of knowledge on today's topic, obviously, between the three people I have on the show. So let's dig right into this, guys. So the topic of today is getting a younger crowd into the line dance scene, both at bars, at events, because obviously that's the next generation. Why don't you guys think that we've moved to a much younger crowd yet? At least here in the States. It seems to be a little bit younger over in the UK and Europe that I've seen. And I know Trevor can contest to that from when he was at WDM. They definitely had a little bit more younger vibe. But we still have a majority of the older crowd here.
Well, I mean, I'll jump right in on it, and I'll just...
I was wondering who was going to break the silence there.
I mean, my first thought that comes to mind is, when I was coming up, when I was 14, 15, and I've mentioned this before, I used to, there's a local club here, Cowboys Orlando, and they offered a teen night. And I always, looking back, I think that was such a brilliant idea because they offered it on Friday nights, and it did numerous things. It allowed a bunch of different middle schools, high school kids to come to a country bar. No alcohol was served. It was kind of just, they only did it during the summer, but it allowed you to mingle and meet some of the other people at other schools that you would never meet otherwise.
Right.
And it also, looking back, I'm like, man, what a brilliant idea on those club owners, because it was pretty much training all of those kids at that time on where to go when they did turn 18 so that they could go dance, and I think that, that's how I got started at 14 years old. I was allowed to go on Friday nights, and I started learning line dance, and, things progressed from there. But I think that that's a huge ordeal, is if clubs or country bars per se were to offer something like a teen night where the younger kids could just go in a safe environment, but have a good time and learn all aspects of line dancing. Have a good, solid dance instructor in the club that can teach to those kids. I think that that's a huge ordeal.
I agree a lot with Trevor. That's, I said I started when I was a kid, and that's exactly what it was. There was a place back when I lived in Phoenix that did the same thing. We had a bar, several different bars that would do a teen night, and you could go in there and you could learn how to dance. Some of them would do family nights where you could go in on a family night, and they would do a Friday night family night. It was a Friday night fish fry. Go in, have some fish and fries, and learn how to dance. And it was actually a lot of fun. It was very cool. The nice thing here with us at Gillies is that, and we see a lot more of a younger crowd on Monday nights, or any of the nights sometimes, but Mondays especially because it's our locals night. We're all ages. We're all ages until 10 o'clock. So I have actually seen some kids that used to come and take my dance lessons when they were 13, 14 years old. And I've been teaching here now for about 10 years. They're now over 21 and they're still line dancing. They're still coming out social couples dancing. They're still coming to the country bars now and staying later because they learned as a kid, which was amazing.
Well, and for me, I kind of have the same story as Trevor, where when I started, I was 10 years old, so it would have been 1991. And where I started out at, we had on the West Coast, Black Angus Steakhouse, which is similar to like a Longhorn or Texas Roadhouse, something like that. But country was so big then that they actually had a dance floor, a tiny, tiny, small dance floor. And every night would have line dance lessons, couples lessons, and dancing. And because it was a restaurant, I was allowed to go up until 10 o'clock every night. And then at 10 o'clock, when they stopped serving food, the GM would come over and tell me and my mom, hey, gotta go. So
Makes sense.
It's a nice way to get interested in it and find a love for it. And then from there, just like both of you guys, I started doing the teen nights at Borderline, which is a big club out in Southern California, and a couple other places like that. But when I was going to those places, I still had never even heard of a dance event.
Right.
I had no clue what a dance event was. And it wasn't until where I lived, there was a gentleman, he was named Vince, and he was tied in with the radio station. And back then it was popular for the radio stations to do road shows.
Right.
Where they would actually send out DJs, like an actual dance DJ would set up, and we would dance in the parking lot for 4 hours. And draw people into like this car lot or whatever.
Nice.
So he was involved with the radio station, and through the radio station, they started hosting a weekly Friday night dance at the American Legion. And it wasn't until that I finally found out what an event was, because he actually ran his own event once a year, Ventura Dance Festival. And it wasn't until that I actually found out what an event was, and I was blown away. Me and my parents, we all went and blown away at what it was. But I don't know, had I just stuck with just the bar scene, I don't know that I ever would have found out about events.
Yeah, and I think that some of it too is a bit of an intimidation factor, because I know when I first turned 18 and I started going to like the barn, I know Janice, the instructor there, Janice Graves, she had approached me, and at first I was like, nah, I'm cool with just dancing here at the bar. No. It was until I had somebody like Guyton who was like, yo, you got to come to this. And I'm like, oh, somebody that I was able to kind of resonate with and really connect with. And I was like, oh man, if he thinks it's cool, or maybe it's, maybe
Right.
it's worth it. No offense to Janice. Janice did invite me in it, and I did. And then I went back and thanked Janice after my first event and said, oh my God, like if you would have never mentioned this, I would have never known. And I think at that point, because I was younger, I was able to share with my friends, like, man, you guys got to come check this out. And I think that that's a huge part of it, is the word of mouth through the younger people, as opposed to, now if I'm going and approaching an 18, 19-year-old kid, he's going to be like, what does this guy know? Whereas somebody your own age who has experienced it, I know that was huge for me, because then I started teaching and I was able to share in my classes, like, man, you guys got to come check this out. You got to come check this out, and I was kind of thinking about this earlier today. Something else that's rather huge is sometimes all it takes is that one dance.
Right.
For example, perfect example, I think back to Tampa. I don't even know a year. I can't remember the year. I'm sure somebody will be able to point it out in the chat here, but the year that Rebecca Lee released New Thing, and I taught that at the club, and that dance was so hot in the club. They were like, where do we learn that? I mean, everybody, how do I learn that? That's the type of line dance I want to learn. Like, do you teach that here? And I'm like, well, yeah, but there's a whole nother world that you don't even know that's 10 times better than this. And sometimes it's just that simple dance that once that got out there and we released that the choreographer was going to be, at the next event, that year at Tampa Bay Dance Classic.
I remember that year too.
Was huge. And I taught New Thing at that event. And I think at that time, JP, you and who was DJing?
It was both me and Louie at that event.
Yep.
Yeah. So I remember like the Saturday
14,
night.
15.
Yeah, Louie like set up his DJ booth and stood the whole night, and I had never seen a DJ at a dance event do that. And he must have played that song 3 or 4 times, and I've definitely never seen Louie do that.
Trevor, it was 2016. It was the year you won the USLDCC.
Well, I remember teaching that, and it was like the dance of I want to say the dance of the weekend, but not my dance, but I was just really lucky to teach it. And that's potentially where Jen Cameron was like, we got to get this Rebecca Lee over here, and that's really kind of what got her to come over here. So I think that was a huge part of it, was that dance brought in a lot of the younger people to say, I like that, and I want to see more of that. How do I do that? How do I get more? And I think that that's really what pulled a lot of the younger crowd in, because I think you saw at that next event where Rebecca Lee was, I want to say that the younger dancers the numbers were really high at that event.
Yeah, they wanted to meet this person. They wanted to, and it brought something different that they weren't used to.
Right.
But I was going to say, but one of the other things you have to do is that the problem is if you get a group of them that go in there, 5 or 6, and local people that go into and the younger group that goes into a line dance group, right? You walk in there, you're the youngest one there. I'll never forget the first time I walked into Vegas, the Vegas Explosion.
Yep.
And I walked in there 10 years ago, my very first time there. And I was like, wow, I'm the youngest person here. That was the first time that I met Amy. Amy was there. She had won the previous year her choreography, so she was invited instructor that year. So it might have been about 10, 11 years ago, right? And her and I kind of met and we talked, but we're like, I remember her telling me, this is kind of cool. There's somebody else closer to my age, Everybody else a lot older. And it was a little awkward. And so that has a lot to do with it. It's the group that's there. All they see is people their parents' age. They don't want to be there.
And that's something I was going to say as well. Like, how do we get them involved? Because if there's that one person, so I'm going to use Trevor as an example.
Mm-hmm.
He was the connection at the barn for all these people to then come out and try Fitz or try Classic or Tampa. And that's what we need, is that one person to be like, no, guys, trust me, like this is what it's going to feel like when you first get there, but trust me, you're going to have a blast.
But
now, how do we get that in other clubs though? Because the barn is it's different in the fact that you already have Trevor, you have Janice. Gillies is different, that they have Tim. Joe's is here is different because we've got Will, we've got me, we've got other people that know the circuit. But what about all these other bars that there's clientele we could be tapping into? How do we get them to realize, hey, we can do this?
But JP, and this is I think the main problem too, and I'm sure Trevor and Tim can chime in on this too.
Don't
Why
steal
is
my
so?
thunder.
Why is someone going to turn around and spend 130 to 170 bucks on a weekend pass, a hotel, and a plane ticket when they can either spend 5, 10, or even no money to go into a bar and learn it from them? Like, why is
Well,
someone going to spend the 130 bucks to come learn? Maybe if that's the only dance that a younger crowd's going to like, the Rebecca Lee, show up and pay the 130 bucks, or even if they come to the night dances and try to pick it up on the floor, which you see all the time, or when they can just wait a week, spend $5 and go learn it from Trevor at the bar.
That's a really good point. However, something else that I've always tried to make sure to bring up, and that is a really good point. And I will say that I know a lot of dancers who do that. But most of those dancers have already been to an event and they're a little more established, so they're able to pick that up on the fly. They're able to learn much faster and pick up because they know the terms, they know the calls, they know the verbiage that we use when teaching. Whereas I think it's really important, and what I try to also promote is that connection that you get to actually meet the choreographers. You get to meet that Shane McKeever. You get to meet that Maddie Glover. You get to, meet whomever it is that, you really, really enjoy because you've heard their name over and over and over from teaching. I used to teach Joey Warren stuff all the time. I mean,
Yep.
I loved a lot of his stuff and I blew up his stuff. And when I got to meet him, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting to meet Joey Warren. He was,
What was that face again? I missed it.
What's that?
What was that face again? I missed it. How did you look when you met Joey?
Joey's an awesome choreographer. He's a fantastic instructor, and from there, I had always heard Darren Bailey, who is this Darren Bailey? And when I finally got to take his lesson, learning from him changed so much of how I've since learned to teach better myself. Now maybe that's looking at it from an instructor's point of view, but when I learned from Darren, I was like, that's one of the best classes I've ever taken. And I at that point, this was only just a couple years ago when I met him and taken a lesson from him in France. I had been through plenty of lessons with multiple instructors, but I think that that's how you have to kind of promote it too, is that you get to learn not from always coming to the club and learning from me. There may be dancers out there, and I hate saying that, but there may be dancers who don't learn well from me. And giving them that, hey, there are so many other instructors and maybe there's somebody else that you'll find that you can really learn better from. And then that kind of sucks you into, well, where is that guy going to be teaching next? Because I love the way he taught that and I want to learn from him again.
But back on the fact though is, Trevor, also the first couple of events, a lot of the events you went to, you volunteered. You did floor with me. You didn't have the cost.
Yeah.
Which we're talking.
No, price is definitely a restriction.
And that's where I think it comes into play a lot, because if you look at the younger attendance, we don't have it nowhere near what it was back in the day. And JP and Tim can contest from going back to UCWDC days at line dance events, especially even both when they were mixed as well. You had the prices weren't nowhere near, I don't think, as high as today. Obviously, we have inflation. But you, Trevor, when you come into the event, you didn't have that cost. So a lot of these people see that, oh, I'm not going to spend 150, 160 bucks to come. Plus, if I want to stay there, get a hotel, or if it's out of state, go get an airplane ticket or drive because that's more time off. That's like the older generation already has that money established. They can do whatever they want. Like how many events now, even as an instructor and even as a job, how many events do you go to on a yearly basis? Because usually you can't get the time off or something like that, and that's a big thing.
Well, there's another factor that comes into play, and that is if they're going to spend the money, the bars have to also be teaching dances, those dances that they've learned at a contest. And that's the thing, like that's something I started to do at Gillies when I first came in and I moved out here to Vegas and I was doing dances. I was like, and I remember they called the watermelon crawl. And I looked at somebody and I went, they're still doing that dance? I learned that dance 20 years.
First of all, if you're at an event where Joey Warren's at, it will
You're
get
gonna be
played
doing it.
every weekend. That is Joey's favorite dance. Speaking of Joey, it will get played. JP will make sure it gets played.
Yep.
You know where I'm coming from is the fact, and then I remember I was sitting there and they were playing some of these dances, and I'm thinking I learned that dance, cowboy cha-cha or whatever it was, back in 1992, 1993, and here it is, 2013, 14, and we're still doing that dance. So if the country bars and the clubs are not doing a lot of the new dances, and I can attest that even in Vegas, there's another bar here, and there's a lot of just those same dances that are in rotation, and it is hard to break another dance into our rotation. I've got to teach it. It's got to teach out another bar. It's got to get, people have got to dance it. They've got to listen to the music. They've got to be willing to, I mean, it's a challenge, it's a chore, but once it's in the rotation, it's going to be played. But how many bars do that around the country? They're
Right.
doing the same dances they've done for 30 years.
Correct.
And that's kind of what I was trying to ask earlier is how do we get in touch with the instructors and try to build up that reputation with them to where they're willing to like, okay, I'll take a look at some of these dances, because then when, Vegas Dance Explosion comes through, your people at Gillies will be able to go and do some of these. Or when Fitz or Florida Classic comes through, we know people from the barn are going to be able to, come there and dance. So those clubs that don't have the ties already with like Tim or Trevor, how do we get those ties built? How do we get somebody in there that's like one of us, I guess, if you will?
Well, I tell you, I have to say that I can't complain at all. I have to say we're really, really blessed here. And perhaps that's why we have, a lot of the Florida events are more populated with the younger crowd than some of the other events.
I think it's
because,
Agreed.
I think that's because at the barn, we have myself, Janice, and Lynn. And over at Cowboys, we have Suzanne, and I fill in for Suzanne when she's not there. Those are all 4 instructors that have been introduced and are familiar with the event dance world. And we do promote the events and support them. And we all keep in touch, and we say, hey, what are we teaching? Gary O'Reilly has a brand new dance out, we're all going to be on the same page with this is what's going to get taught. Suzanne may say, hey, there's a beginner dance that I'm really liking to this. What are you guys teaching to it? So the communication amongst the instructors is really big. But I mean, I also see that a lot of the dancers that, I don't want to say that I brought in, but a lot of dancers that were taking lessons from me and began to start coming to these events were also really, really lucky because, Jen and Jay Cameron, they offered work doors or work floors or,
Right.
I know there's quite a few of the guys, and I feel like it's so much more tough to get the guys to come than the girls to these events. But the guys, we were able to find Jake and Steven and
but even
Bowman
back in the
and
day, we had no shortage. It was you, James, Patrick, Danny, me, Petter. We had all of us. And that's what we did. We'd show up early. We'd put down the floor. We'd stay late.
But what I'm saying is like that opportunity to earn a free pass or earn, a free room, whatever that may have been, it was definitely a huge reason why we kept coming back and why we kept volunteering and saying, man, like we're hooked. Like we want to come to the event for sure. Kelly, can I throw floor with you? Or Jen,
Right.
Can I help with floor? Can I drive floor? Like I'll drive it wherever it needs to go. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. It was a win-win. But I wonder if maybe we were able to provide a few more opportunities for some of the younger kids in these clubs to like earn free passes or earn, a half price or some sort of bulk. Like, hey, if you get 10 people to sign up together, then the price will go from, whatever, we'll just use $100 as a low ball price for an event, $100. If you get 10 people, then it'll only be $75 a person, and I'm just using random numbers. So
Right.
Don't anybody quote me on those, but I'm just saying like, And I know that there are options for that because I get emails from Janice all the time. And, Janice will say, early bird, pricing is going to be away. We got to make sure we get our however many people to get a price break.
Right.
And hopefully that's public news. But, whatever the deal, I wonder if maybe giving some sort of promotions to those local events, wherever they may be, Chicago or Vegas, and allowing the younger kids that opportunity to earn or work for a pass or just something. Because, I think that is the major restriction. Like, we're all working full time. And, I know for me, when I'm not working an event, I really only get to pick one, maybe two a year. And I have to choose very wisely. And then from there, it's like, when can I take off? Who are the instructors? What event is it? Like, what's it going to cost me? Like, everything comes into play.
Right.
But I think that if there was an opportunity for me to get a better deal or price, that may sway me from, per se, one event to a different event.
So do you think it falls then back on the event directors to actually, the people putting on the events, to go and market to those groups?
I think there's got to be a give and take on both sides. If you want the clientele in there, I think as the event director, yeah, you should go out and be like, hey, are you guys interested? I'm going to offer this promotion, like Trevor was saying. Sign up 10, and we'll drop it by $20.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna just put this out there because why not? This is what this whole interview is about, and this may piss some people off. I don't know, but
do it.
I think that I know for me, and I've no names being spoken, but there's been events where I've really, I don't want to say yelled at, but I've been yelled at for not promoting it. I think a lot of it boils down to the instructors that are working the events. And once again, this is not to like make anybody mad, but I think that a lot of things boil back to the instructors that are at that event. And a lot of us, myself included, have become lazy. It's like, oh, well, I got this event locked in. I'm already going to be working it. There's already going to be people there. What do I need to do anything for? And I think that things really, truly need to fall back on them because you know what? Ultimately, we can't do what we do without more of this younger generation coming in. And I also, I noticed whenever I brought a younger crowd and there was a group of 10, 15, 20, I started getting hired more often because that's what the event directors are ultimately searching for is what instructor is going to bring me their crew, going to bring me their people. And I think that it boils down to that the instructors who are hired for that event they got to pull their weight. They got to, we all do at the events, yeah, when we get there, but it's pulling those people and getting those people to the events.
Now, something else along that same line. Let's say, for example, one of the Florida events. I'm not going to pick one. I'm just going to say one of them. You're not hired, but are you still going to promote it within the barn? Are you still going to? Because here's what I'm
asking me directly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as a general, or even Tim, like.
Oh, I do. I absolutely do. Any event that I'm going to, I try to push and promote, whether I'm teaching or whether I'm going just as a dancer or spectator. I'm definitely going to go because I want my friends to be there with me too. I think that that's a huge thing.
It is, and here's why I was asking because I know when I used to run an event in California back in 2002 and 2003, it was a lot of extra work on my part, but it helped me realize as an event director, it helped me realize who's actually supporting the event, instructor-wise. And it helped me, figure out like where people are coming from. And so this might be something we could even encourage, bar instructors, people that are teaching the younger crowds, give this to them. So what I did, every flyer I made up that I gave out to instructors had a code on the bottom. That was their code. And when I got that flyer in, I knew that flyer came from, say, Trevor's group. And the incentive I ran was, hey, Trevor, you get me 10 passes, I'm going to give you yours free. You give me 20 passes, I'm going to cover one room night for you. You get me 50 passes, I'll cover the whole, but like an incentive program to try to.
Absolutely. And I wonder though, I mean, and you're an event director, so I'm curious to, to ask you, like, how much more work is that for you? And how much more work is that for you to keep up with and control? Or do you find somebody on your team that's going to go ahead and handle all of that? I mean, because we won't even get into all of the work that's behind the scenes for an event director. I completely get that. But I mean, the reality is,
Tim's up there going, yeah, let me tell you about working as an event director.
Yeah. But, well, then for both of you, so is it more work involved to try and run a promotion like that and really get your instructors to do something like that than it is? I mean, is it that much more worth it? Or is it easier to just,
like, just getting, creating everything and keeping track? But once you're set up, I didn't find that it was that much harder.
Right.
There's ways to do it, and there definitely. I mean, you do that. We do that for pros, right? That are coming in with students, you want to get more students to come in, or just get more people in general. So you're already doing it. It's not a lot of work, and that's a great way to promote it for your instructors that are coming in. But those instructors, how many of those instructors are teaching in their local area? How many of those instructors are teaching in a bar or in a country, whatever, in a place? They're not. They're on the road. If I wasn't teaching at Gillies and that was my job, and I was relying solely on my promotion in the Las Vegas area, I'll tell you I would suck at it, because I'm on the road. Well, right now I'm sitting in my living room or in my office at home.
Not too many of us are on the road right now.
But normally, I'm on the road, every other weekend or 3 weeks a month, and I'm home one weekend. So it's difficult for somebody to be able to promote that. So it's a way to, now we have to try to figure out who's the local person. I saw a comment from Rick Dominguez that came through. Like he said, they're in Southern California, they're promoting a lot of the different dances, but, he's promoting the circuit, and they're kind of making their way around. So it's just a matter of, that's the challenge. Challenge is those bars and that nobody's near. Anybody in Idaho, anybody in North Dakota. If we don't know they're there, we have no idea.
Right.
But
so I mean, it sounds like ultimately it is boiling down to the local instructors, which in my opinion and from my understanding when I first started, which I understand, not that I'm saying you guys are old, but you guys are old, so.
Wow.
He went there.
Listen, but,
wow.
When I first started, the event circuit was basically.
Can you just mute him and turn him off?
My understanding was that the event was directed and specific for local instructors to come and learn more to take back to their classes. And that's exactly what I did. And that's exactly why at the barn or Cowboys, that's why those clubs know. I mean, anybody in those clubs that goes regularly, they could go to an event, never being to an event before, and they'll be able to dance at least 5 to 10 dances.
Right. But so here's the question here, though, because someone brought this up about local instructors not promoting it. Say they're not on staff, and we'll use say the instructor like Suzanne Wilson at Cowboys. She's not going to want to promote for all her people at Cowboys to go to the event, because Cowboys is still expecting her to have people in that club taking her lessons that weekend, because they're not going to cancel.
I'm not quite sure that that's the mentality. I mean, it could possibly be a mentality, but I mean, and I know Suzanne very well, and I know that's not like her. That's not like her specifically.
I was just using that as an example because that's someone we knew, and we knew the thing.
Right. My question would be, I guess the bigger question is, why would bars and local country clubs have an instructor that's not going to these events?
It happens all the time.
Because
maybe
the bar scene, the point of the bar scene is to fill the bar.
So then maybe what the event directors needs to do is search out who are all of the dance instructors in that area, how many bars are in that area, and seek out those instructors and say, hey, we would love for you to come check out our event. These are the dates. We're going to give you a free pass to the event. We just ask that you bring, and that person's, oh, they got a free pass. Well, guess what? They're not going to go by themselves. They're going to at least get one or two of their friends or dancers that are going to know something with them to come. Give the instructors at those local bars who may not be on staff some sort of incentive and really push them.
Well, and that's like, I wouldn't give, just as an event director, I wouldn't just give a free pass.
I was just using that as an example, but
I mean, you want them, you could give that pass to them and they're going to go, oh, cool, I have a free pass. I'll stop by Saturday night and not do a damn thing with it. Or if you give them, an incentive program of, hey, bring me 5 people and I'll give you something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's the way I would look at it as an event director.
And Rick just said something. He said old bar owners are usually the reason things don't change. I don't agree with that, because if I turn around and bought a bar today, if I turn around and bought a nightclub, and if I hired an instructor to come in there, I'm expecting them to come be there to teach and bring people to that bar. I'm not expecting them to get people to come to a dance event that's going to be once a year. That's the thing. I'm paying that person to bring people into the bar. So I have a hard time saying we have to hold this on the local instructors in a bar. Local classes, that's different, because usually local classes are more event type goers who want to teach locally and still do event stuff thing. But in a bar scene, the whole point of me, if I was a bar owner, I'm a point of line dance instructor, is to bring people to learn line dancing to come dance in my bar. I wouldn't want, like, I say this to you all the time at the barn. Eric would give you crap all those events your weekend, but luckily you had Janice and Lynn.
Yeah,
I'm not old though.
And well, it's funny you say that though, Kelly, because somebody in the chat here, and I'm kind of just browsing because I'm trying to listen and pay attention to you guys. But while reading, and somebody mentioned in there that bar owners don't, I think with Brandon, I think he said, bar owners don't realize how important it is.
They don't realize there's a whole event scene.
When my bar owner realized the impact and how large the dance world was, when he figured that out, he was like, holy cow, bring them over. I'll give them a free night here, get them in free. We'll give discounts to any people who are at the event. So it benefited the club as well. Every time Gary O'Reilly comes here, we have him at the barn. We ask him to come and teach one night before an event or a night after the event's over, whatever. But, maybe that's another incentive, is getting the bar owners in and say, hey, we're having a huge event on these dates. Maybe we do a pre-party at your bar on this night, and that also, that opens up so many more possibilities, that the people in the bar regularly that night get to see a different type of instructor and get to see something else. And then everybody at that bar, if they sign up that night for the event, gets a discount or, some sort of incentive.
Now, the other factor that comes into play, and I've seen this here at Gillies, and they don't tell me anything at all. They never have. But I do know that sometimes they'll get hounded about the type of music that some of the dances are. So that's a big factor as well. Oh, look, now you're all set. But
Reed, what about the rest of us?
Well,
thank you, babe.
Such a full play. But that has a lot to do with it too. The dances that are being choreographed to. I was watching the Streamline last night. When I saw Rick, Jono was teaching Hairspray. Hairspray's a fun dance to do. Is it going to be played in a country bar on a Friday or Saturday night?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That's not going to be played. And there's several dances that we love that are fun, but they're not going to get the airplay, because you not only have to play to the dancers that are in there to dance, but the people that are in there just to drink and hang out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They don't want to hear, show tunes. They don't want to hear some jazz song. They don't want to hear that stuff. They want to hear whoever the country artist is on the radio, right? That's what they want.
Exactly.
So I've asked, when I've asked some of my friends, in the bars that aren't big line dancers, they maybe only know one or two, but they go for the social. aspect of going to the country bar. I've said, like, what would interest you? Like, how and why? And I've had so many people say to me, like, how did you get such a huge following? Hey, how's that? I've had so many people ask me and say, like, how did you get such a following and this and that? It all boils down to exactly what you were saying, Tim, is beginner dances are very, very important. Showing those beginners, like, the advanced dancers already know. Anybody who's in that club and they're in our world, an advanced dancer, those aren't the ones that we really need to be striving for, because they've already got it. They have some sort of understanding, clearly. It's the beginner dancers that are so important. And I mean, even as an intermediate advanced dancer, I love beginner dances, because no matter how much I've had to drink or how tired I am, I can still go out there and participate and share the floor with the dancers. I think that that's huge. And, inviting somebody like Gary or having somebody like John Robinson, Brandon Zahorski, when he comes to the barn, that's somebody who, when Brandon comes, I mean, granted, he has an understanding because he teaches in a country bar as well, but comes in and teaches, like, that one really catchy, fun beginner dance that makes people go, man, I want more of that. Like, where can I learn more of that? And then that's what opens that door. And sometimes it sounds to me like that's really what we need, is just that door being opened. And from there, that's how I started with my group. I had a group of like 15, 20 dancers, and they were all beginners. I mean, none of them come to my lessons anymore because they're so far beyond me, but now they can learn lessons from Shane, Rachel, Jessica Devlin, and Maddie, Simon, like all, I can name for days, but that's now they're able to take those lessons because they learned those basics and those beginner dances. And I think that maybe that's another portion of it, but boiling down to the local instructor at the club, if they're not offering and teaching stuff that's going to give those dancers an opportunity once they go to an event, then what's the point?
God.
Well, actually, what if too, like, because it's not even, in my opinion, it's not even just getting people from the bar, like the younger people. It's not about just getting them from the bar to an event. It's also about getting them from the bar to what I call like the weekly community center class. Where it's event driven. It's based off event dances. It's not, you don't have to worry about what music's being played. You don't have to, and it's run by a local instructor. Because those types of classes you don't typically just find and go to on the first time. You find them somehow. So, it might be helpful too if we have, let's say I have a weekly class, not at a bar, but I'm teaching event dances that are beginner, that are this or that. And on the weekend nights, I go to the local bar and go, hey, you look like you might actually be interested in learning more. Because you can usually tell the people that are going to have an interest in what we do versus the ones that just want to stay at the bar. And, and promoting their class that way. And then from there, the next step would be getting to the events. And I don't know how to do that, but just something I was thinking of.
So I have 2 points on it. Jason said a little bit ago, and this is the big thing. The more people who dance that he's noticed at his bars in California, the more people dance, the less they drink. And bar owners usually do not want that because they're in the business of selling alcohol at their clubs, because that's the whole point of them being open.
Do they go to Florida or North Carolina?
He's in California.
Here's what I'll say about that, though.
Yeah.
That is all on the DJ.
I 100% agree with you.
It is the DJ's job to control the floor and control when people are going to the bar.
Agreed.
You run your sets. And, even so, this is how I would DJ. Let's call it just a standard nightclub. Just not line dance, not anything we're doing. I'd start down here, and just kind of keep bringing up the tempo. And then guess what? Boom, back down here. Because what happens is all these people that were just now sweating on the dance floor, they're going to go get drinks, and everybody else that was drinking is going to come out. You rotate the floor. So when I DJ in a bar, I do the same thing with country. I make sure, okay, I'm going to work the line dancers off. Okay, now they're going to get a break and go drink.
Right.
And now I'm going to work the couples. They get a break and go drink. Hey, guess what? Now it's freestyle. Now they get a break and go drink. That's where it comes on the DJ to be able to control his room and drive the bar sales. That's what he's there for.
Why don't you do that at events?
Because his job is to keep you on the floor, not at the bar.
I'm just kidding.
JP's absolutely right with that. It does go back to the DJ with how they drive it and what they do. And, and I don't know how different bars are different places, but I can tell you the ones that I've worked in, there's different clients as you get later in the evening, right? Your dancers, your hardcore dancers tend to be the first there. You cater to them as it gets later. Yep. And we do have dancers. I mean, I've DJ'd and I've been there, so I know at the clubs here, the later it gets at 11 midnight, am I still playing line dances? Yeah, but it's a different type of line dance, right? I'm not doing the ones that I was doing at 7, 8 o'clock. I'm doing the wobble. I'm doing, that type of stuff because that's what they want to do. They're still line dancing, but your dances change. So, and your clients change. So, and sometimes it's a younger crowd that isn't bad. So it boils down to the dances. We've got to get the right dances in the bars by the right people to make those same people want to go and venture off into something else.
No, I agree 100%. I know for me, like, even whenever I'm asked to go fill in, and I think this is huge, and it kind of just, feeds to that point you just mentioned. But, for me, whenever I fill in, if I'm looking for a dance or I need a dance, I'm looking at something that's going to be done at an event and something that's easily done in a bar. And for multiple reasons. Number one, I want to support and promote my fellow instructors and choreographers, my friends who may have a really cool dance. That's a great beginner. I want to help get their dance out there and help get their name. So I'm helping promote my friends, but also allowing the dancers to see something that they've never done before. Right. And the likeliness is if I'm guest instructing somewhere, then that instructor probably hasn't done whatever I'm going to do.
Right.
So I'm giving them just a simple taste of not only something that they're able to do in that bar, but if they were to go to an event, they're going to see it there and they're going to go, oh man, and I've had this happen. People go, oh my gosh, I remember you taught this at Cowboys and it's so fun because I can do it here too. And I'm like, see, you can still have fun at the events because you are able to dance and do it here at the club as well. So when I'm looking for something to teach, I'm searching for something that's being done on the circuit as well as something that can be taught in the bar. And, like Brandon mentioned in this chat here a second ago too, a lot of it is that right there, teaching that dance, as soon as I'm done and hoping that the people love it, they're going to come up to me and go, where is that? Where can I find that? Or how do I learn more dances like that? And that right there is opening that door and saying, here you go, and maybe I have some flyers with me, or maybe I have something on social media where I can go, hey, you got your phone? Like, let me go ahead and show you this link. Let me show you Fun in the Sun 2021. It's going to be a great time, blah, blah, blah,
So,
and go ahead.
So talking about that, the whole showing people their phone, do you think all this online stuff has been helping try to maybe promote it to a younger crowd, with the streamline, the social distancing, digital dance weekends, all the people teaching online classes? Because younger people are usually a little bit more tech savvy. They can learn it from the comfort of their own home.
I think that's a double-edged sword, and I'm going to play that card. And that's simply because if you don't know what you're going to get into, why are you going to pay for it?
I'm not about. How about the free ones? How about all the free ones? Streamline's free.
Do I think that's going to help promote dance events that are per se going to reopen? Is that what you're asking? Like, is that going to help those people want to go to an actual event?
Well, yeah, because now they can see more. They can see what it is without having to pay the money.
I think what you're doing is you're giving people that are already familiar with it the same thing. You're not giving it to anybody that's not already involved in the circuit.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Different crowd.
I mean, I'm not sure how many people are tuning in that don't already know what we do.
I'm going to agree. And I'm going to say that the likeliness is a
I don't know
beginner
about that, because
dancer.
Streamline has 20,000 members. And you can't tell me a single event that gets 10% of that at one of them, except for maybe Las Vegas Dance Explosion, that gets about 1,500 people. That's a lot of people watching, and that's just on one page.
But that's worldwide. 20,000 members of a group worldwide is not that big of a number.
There's a lot of people that will do one event a year, right? They're familiar with the choreographers. Maybe they've gone to an event before and they just follow it online, right? They're familiar with Copper Knob or Kick It from back in the day, and they watch YouTube videos and they just see it, so they're just following it. So there's still the local instructors that are not really promoting anything. They're just finding the stuff online and watching it.
But my question then is this: YouTube's the biggest search engine in the world. If young kids can learn what line dancing really is and searching it, why is the majority of the line dance videos watched by everybody over the age of 50?
Because it's not TikTok.
Don't matter if it's TikTok or not. If you can't tell me the people watching TikTok aren't watching YouTube. Like, I have a YouTube channel that I put up lots of videos. You all know this.
Right.
I put up videos, lots daily. 91.9% of my views are people over the age of 45. Okay? 69% of that is people over 55. So 69 out of every 100 people are over the age of 55, and 91 out of that 100 are over the age of 45. They're older than probably all four of us here. Tim, I don't know you. I don't remember your age. I couldn't remember if you're over 45 or not.
I am not. Thank you very much.
I knew you were close to my age. I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure how much older you were than me. I knew you're older because I'm 40.
I'm only a year.
So pretty much no one in our age bracket is watching videos of dancing, which is the easiest way to learn.
But that is because when you search those videos, most of the time, if you're 16, 17, 20, 21 years old and you're looking up a line dance video, you're finding the majority of the time, and I have nothing against them. It's awesome because I love watching these groups. You're finding a group of Asian women, or you're finding a clip that somebody took from a dance event. And as you are watching the people, sure, the instructor is Maddie or whoever it is, JP or whatever, which are awesome because they're like, hey, they're young. But you look in the crowd, and it goes right back to the demographic that you just said. The people are that they want to watch. That's why, Trevor said it, right? It's not TikTok. Why is TikTok so popular? Because it's a bunch of teenage kids and young 20-year-olds, and they're going to watch them. They're their animal age. Those people
Why is it every TikTok video I see on Facebook is some old white guy?
Viral. Let's be honest.
Because one of their grandkids taught them that, and they're wanting to be funny.
Here's what I think is to answer that as far as YouTube and why people younger aren't searching for or watching line dance videos. We still have the stigma in the name of line dance. And if I'm younger and something pops up in my suggested list, let's say I just watched, an Eminem music video.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see in the suggested videos, oh, hey, line dance, have fun, go mad to shake that ass. Yeah, nope, I don't want to watch line dance. And I'm going to scroll by it.
I come across that when people are like, and I think Fred told me this a long time ago. I was like, I was struggling a couple of years ago, like whenever I would promote I'm a line dance instructor. People will look at me like, what?
Yep.
Okay, you want to grab your belt buckle and do-si-do? And I'm like, you know what, dude, come to one of my classes and let's see what you can do. Like, you want to get defensive about it because it's like you have no idea what the line dance world, you have no clue. And it's super frustrating to try and explain that to someone without pulling up YouTube and going, look at this.
Right.
I've done that to my daughter. My daughter's like, my dad's real cool line dance instructor. But now that she's seen so many of these things, and she's seen like Shane's reverse, that is the coolest freaking line dance to her, you know. But I think that is the problem. And Fred used to say, well, I don't tell people that I teach line dance. I tell people I teach dance. What kind of dance? Dance. And I think that's another huge thing is people still to this day have, just like JP said, you know, have that mentality that line dance is cowboy hats and belt buckles and boots, and you got to have a certain, you know, look of it, you know. And I think in our world, Guyton changed that, and he made it revolutionary. However, people still to this day don't know that line dance is a whole different world than cowboy boots and cowboy hats.
They have no clue. And I don't know. And that's something for years I've tried to figure out how to break that. How do we get people, you know, interested and involved? And unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately might not be the best word, but what I keep coming back to is we have to draw from some of the people that are going to the bars because they're already exposed to it on some level. They've got the ones that are going to be interested already have an interest from dancing there. You know what I'm saying? Versus just Joe Blow on the street has no idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of it boils down to the music too, you know. And I hate saying this, but like, because it's another one of those double-edged swords, but like Blanco Brown and, you know, these guys coming out with these ridiculous, silly songs that
that's my jam.
Somehow go viral. But it's like, how do you put like a legit good line dance to that we're not going to just be like, this is ridiculous, and get people to want to join in with something like that, you know? Whereas something like I explained in the very beginning, New Thing, oh my God, like, it was a cool track. You could enjoy it no matter what age. The song was fun. And the dance was so well written that you had to connect with it. And it wasn't necessarily an advanced dance. Beginners could learn it too if taught proper. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but you're more likely to hear Blanco Brown in a country bar than you are the song for New Thing.
That boils back to your DJ allowing a little bit of everything, you know. And I'm so blessed at the bar, once again, with DJ Larry. He plays anything we want within realm as long as we have some people on the floor to dance.
Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, the get up or the Cupid shuffle or what I call the party dances, the wobble, because all of that, it dates back, you know, all the way to the 60s with Electric Slide. And that's always been one of those dances where, let's say I go out to a bar with a friend of mine, and the only dance, he gets super excited when wobble comes on. He goes out and does that. Now that gives me the opportunity, being the good friend that I am, turn around and go, dude, you know you just did a line dance, right? That is a line dance. You should come check out what I do.
Yeah.
And so I think those dances, yeah, I mean, I do tend to make fun of some of those, but I think they are good feeder dances because it gives you that opening of the door to be able to go, you just did a line dance.
True. Steven said, I don't know if we can really blame the DJ because a lot of that comes back down to the owners of whether or not the owners allow the music in that bar. The DJ can only play so much. If the DJ is told they're not allowed to play a song, they're turning around and they just can't.
We used to have a bar owner here in Las Vegas that would tell the DJs, and at the time Miley Cyrus was huge, right? Mm-hmm. He would say, you know what, you can't play any Miley Cyrus in the bar. And we're like, wait, why? And he's like, she's not old enough to be in the bar, you can't play her in here. Like, seriously? Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, he just had this thing, like he didn't want them played in his bar. They're not old enough to come in here. So I was like, wait, so if they pulled up into your front door, you wouldn't let them in? I highly doubt that.
Yeah, right.
And it goes, you know, there are some of the old bar owners that think that way. And you know, and it's different part. And I think what we're talking about, I saw Nicola Lafferty posted something on here, right? Like she said, the people that she works with, they love dancing to country music. Yeah, and that's true.
WDM does.
Yeah, but the difference is I've noticed in the United States, it's not that way.
Oh, absolutely,
Agreed.
absolutely, 100%.
Because I have taught some, I try to find good country dances and I can, but if I put it to some hip hop track, oh my gosh, they're gonna love it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and that's Kelly and I have had this conversation. Oh my God! Every time we see one another, he'll bring up a track and he'll be like, "What do you think about this?" And I say, "Kelly, where are our strengths, both you and me, and what have we been most successful with?" And I know for me, I'm speaking for me here, Kelly. For me, country. My strengths are country choreography and country line dance, and I am perfectly okay with that. That's what I learned. I am not saying by any means that we shouldn't teach the country at all.
Agreed, but you also have a country bar that won't let you play one of your most popular dances. That's to a song by Reba McEntire.
That's true, but that's
you could play
owners.
You could play
like
the whatchamacallit, Old Town Road, but you weren't allowed to play Reba McEntire.
Old Town Road is one of the best country songs of this decade.
Get out.
I tell people all the time, it's really a shame that kids these days are only going to know Billy Ray Cyrus for Old Town Road. And they're not going to know him for Achy Breaky Heart. It's really
I remember dancing. I was already dancing when Achy Breaky Heart came out and couldn't wait to learn that line dance.
Ditto.
Get out.
Ditto. I agree. I was the same.
Yeah.
No, listen.
It was the hottest thing. It was the get up of the early '90s.
It was.
I used to love. I'll wear my cowboy hat. My girlfriend loves when I throw on my cowboy hat and we're gonna go out dance, and she's like, "All right." And I mean, I'm all about the country line dancing, but do I think that it's really cool we can offer the whole realm? Absolutely. And I think that ultimately, if we're wanting to get the younger crowd involved, we have to give them a little bit of everything, or at least something. We got to give them, it's like fishing. You got to get them just that little bite to get them hooked. What is that going to take? What is that going to be? And where does it derive? And I think that that's in the local bars where they're going to go regularly and they're going to get to dance that regularly. That's going to pull them and be able to go, all right, let's go to I want you to come check out this dance event,
And that's the trick. And that's the hard thing to try to figure out. How do we do that? And there is probably no good answer at this point.
Oh, absolutely not. Just like our talk last week, is there a definite good answer for the solution? No, but is this a way to
how do
talk
you really
it out?
test it?
Do what?
How do you really test it?
With a nose swab.
I feel, Trevor, that we live in a state where it's probably a little bit more possible to do something along the lines, the same as California, are probably the two biggest states along with the younger crowd and the best bars. From everything I've learned in talking to Rick Dominguez and Byron and Megan and Chris out in Cali and Jason and all them, and then you and everyone on here, John Lindsay, we do have the two best, probably youngest crowds that are a little bit more open, and we can get away with a lot more than most areas, from what I've noticed. Even when I talk to Brandon can get away with some, but even he has a lot more hand-tied, like he said, than you do at Barn with Larry, or even Cowboys, even though they're a little bit more particular at times. But we do have a more open genre. Same thing with JP and North Carolina now. Joe's, there are some songs they probably will frown upon, but for the most part, they allow pretty open.
Especially, and this is something else that the bars tend to do, or should do.
Yes.
To give a little more leeway in the fact of have your Wednesday nights, and I'm just picking a Wednesday at random, but Wednesday night is our line dance night. Anything goes. We're not restricting music. It's our line dance night. But guess what? Friday, Saturday night, you're not going to be able to hear a lot of what we play on Wednesday.
Right.
Because now this is our bar night. This is, and that's what I used to do in San Diego at the bar that I was a manager. We would different nights for different things. We had a West Coast swing night, and it was one of our biggest nights. I mean, West Coast swing in San Diego, yeah, like it's going to be.
Yeah, of course.
But So there's got to be some give and take there too between the clubs between the owners and the clientele. Like,
So one of the things I was just thinking as you were going through that, but it made me kind of stop and think, we're also looking at just one side of it, which is, feeding people into the scene from just the bars, right? And I thought several years ago, we had the World Championships of Hip Hop here in Las Vegas.
Yep.
People from all over the world came out, hip hop crews, and came. And I got contacted by, I don't even know where they were from. And every time they go to these things, or she brings a group everywhere, she tries to teach her kids something else other than hip hop. So she contacted me. She knew I was a line dance instructor, and she wanted to kind of introduce her kids, bunch of teenage kids, line dancing, another type of dance. And so I did about a 2-hour workshop with them at the studio here, and I actually ran through the different line dances. I started with something very old, and I kind of brought it. And so I don't even remember what dances I taught at the very end, but I ended with something that was not a traditional country song. And they were floored that was even line dance. And they were like, this is actually a lot of fun. This is cool. And I want to say it was probably like a Guyton dance or something like that, something that they could kind of feel and understand what they were doing. But that's another way to kind of get it in. We're looking at one side of it, but there's a whole bunch of groups and kids that are already dancers. They're hip hop crews that are going to hip hop studios. They're ballet kids or jazz kids or whatever. And we're not even touching them because they don't even know that this is something that they would excel at. They would be fabulous at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking about that too. Right before you said that, I was kind of thinking, Wild Roses are a perfect example. I mean, they'll go perform at, fairs or, local events for whatever. And there's so many different groups like that do that, but they're going to also help promote themselves for, because they need to, so that they can go compete and do all of those things. But something I was kind of thinking as far as the bars that you don't really see anymore, or at least I don't, is, back in the day, Kelly used to talk about how, oh God, a group of them, 4 or 5 of them, they would go to the Crazy Horse, or they would go to here, and they would go just to dance and not necessarily show off, but just have a good time. But that would grab a lot of people. And I know there used to be a crew, like we used to call ourselves like the little 4 horsemen crew. And we used to go dance everywhere and just show off. And looking back now, seeing some of those people do it, I'm like, oh my God, look at these kids. They have no idea what they're doing. But a lot of that, people see that though. People see that no matter where you're at, a concert or, an event, a fair, whatever it may be, people see that and it gets them hooked. I was reading that in the comments a little bit ago, where sometimes all it takes is just that one really cool dance for a couple of people doing it, for other people to go, what is that? I want to learn that.
True.
A side thought, but I mean, you're absolutely right. We've really only touched on like that one angle. We're not really thinking outside that box and going.
So many ways to go.
Oh yeah, I mean, you've got the senior centers, but that's just it. That's the senior centers. We're talking about pulling in the younger groups.
Right.
So like, what are we trying to offer? Like a summer camp for kids? Like, thank goodness, Jen and Jason have their event fits where you can bring the kids and they have the kids. What a great opportunity for those kids. And
I'm really curious to see how many of those kids stick with it. Like once they grow past, but I don't know what the cutoff is at Fitz for the kids session.
I don't remember. I think it's 12 or 13.
13.
Yeah, something right around there.
Like, I'm really curious to see how many of them stick with it. How many did we snag to become more of us?
How many drink the Kool-Aid?
So, I mean, I don't know, what if there was something at every event where there was one day of that event, which I'm assuming that it would have to be like a Saturday, because generally kids are in school or whatever Thursdays and Fridays. But what if on a Saturday or even a Sunday there was a 3-hour session for kids of all ages to come in, and 3 levels? You know what I mean? Like, why isn't that an option? Why isn't that is it too much work? Is it too much extra? What is it that we can't offer something like that at every event, and then slowly watch how that progresses.
Do you really want kids around me that long?
Sunday's a great opportunity for them to come and get out. Like,
No, you've got a great idea, and it's something that we were doing in Arizona. At a dance event that I had there, is we would do a thing on Friday night. Specifically, we had a pizza party, and some of the West Coast swing events have started to do that, where you would have like this pizza party or something specifically for kids that they could come in. It was a workshop dedicated for them with, specific geared towards them. We would give them pizza afterwards and sodas and drinks, and then we would offer a specific Jack and Jill for them.
Right.
That they were competing against each other. It's a little bit different type of thing, but very similar. If you're gearing a line dance hour or 2-hour room to them to kind of have amongst them and their friends and other people to learn, a cool dance. That's not something that mom, dad, or grandma does.
Yeah, right. That's the other thing you just brought up. That's a room dedicated. So that's a room that the event has to dedicate to people aren't paying to be there and take it away, and that's classes the other people that are paying to take. So getting them that equal balance sometimes.
Okay, so once again, like, I still feel like there's an angle that can be worked on that as far as like a Sunday. Where charge them $5 a person at the room and dedicate just one side room. Because Sundays, I mean, most events that I work, Sunday's pretty much done, so whether it be, almost done or even a Saturday morning, I'm just thinking that that's a different angle in which even if parents who aren't line dancers hear about it, they get it. It's what, 2-3 hours of daycare for them for $10. And I'm just, or the parents can join them and come watch and spectate and see something that their kid may be interested in. And then that boils down to reaching out to some of the different local dance studios, allowing the kids to come in and add a show or do a show on a Saturday night, or just a quick little, number.
It's a great idea. I think I'm going to steal it for South Bay.
I'm just saying, like, why aren't those angles that we're trying to actively pursue?
And I think you could very easily get away with it on a Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday definitely seems more of the way to get away with it than the Saturday, for sure. Because
I mean, on Sunday everything's starting to thin out anyway, so you can afford to lose a ballroom for paying customers to be able to try to encourage.
Right.
Or, I'm sitting here, just my mind's now kind of going racy. I wish I would have done this about an hour ago, but, Friday night, finding a local dance studio and allowing those kids to come and do a performance helps the studio promote their studio for any other kids that the people in the crowd may want, and also allow those kids to stay for an hour and kind of see what's going on at that event, and then get hooked, and then go, hey, by the way, Sunday morning, right here at the same exact place for $5, you guys can come and learn from some of our instructors.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. It's been a great little over an hour. We went a little past.
Just like that, just cut us right off.
I know, right?
Well, I was trying to phase it out for the last 25 minutes, but sometimes when you get going, it's hard to stop you.
Trevor wouldn't shut up. I know.
Sorry. I talk so much. I'm sorry if I stole time from Tim and JP. I apologize.
No, it was a great show. I appreciate you guys so much for coming on and doing this with me. I hope everyone at home enjoyed it. It was informational. Like I said, this was our opinion. We had fun with it. Kind of what all these roundtables are going to be. I'm going to be trying to do at least one a week. I'm enjoying them. I know JP's enjoying them. So we've been talking about this for a while. So thank you guys for coming. Next week's lineup, I will be releasing it over the weekend. So hope everyone enjoys. Thank you guys again for joining me. See you guys Monday. Same bad time, same bad channel, guys.
Absolutely. See you. Thank you for having us.